Hey, you're listening to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. I'm a barefoot mama bear, pharmacist, integrative fertility health coach, and lover of all things nature and animals. I'm on a mission to have intentional conversations about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. My mindful guest and I will be talking about struggles, wins, natural wellness, and how we grow and transform as we enter motherhood. My background in healthcare has shown me how broken our medical system is. My own struggles to become pregnant has shown the lack of support for mamas to be, the lack of guidance for women to have a nourishing and vibrant pregnancy, the isolation, mom guilt, and all the things we hold after bringing baby earthside. I want this platform to be a place where women can feel connected, safe, and supported to share and hear their stories. A place to use our voice to discuss and advocate about what we need and deserve as mothers. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. Today I'll be talking with Vanessa. She's a certified clinical hypnotherapist who helps women pick up the pieces of their lives after heartbreak, such as the end of a relationship, grief, the aftermath of childhood trauma, or fertility issues. October is National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and we are recording on October 3rd. And Vanessa's specialty is working with women who are currently pregnant after suffering a previous pregnancy loss. So the timing of this podcast, like the stars really aligned for that. So today we'll be talking about pregnancy after loss and how hypnotherapy can help you in letting go and really just being able to trust the process. So welcome, Vanessa. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So I would really love by just starting on your background, where your passion came from for hypnotherapy, and specifically serving women during really difficult and traumatic times in their lives.
Yeah, of course. So the story began with me wanting to be a psychologist. That's always been my life plan. So I went to school, got my master's in marriage and family therapy, and now I'm in a doctoral program for clinical psychology. So throughout my doctoral program, I've always been focused on trauma. And so that's not really new, but what is more, I would say, newer for me is working specifically with, women's health issues, working with, like you said, women who are struggling to conceive or who have suffered pregnancy, or infant loss, or who are currently pregnant again after having a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so before that, I got into hypnotherapy while I was still in grad school, because as much as I think therapy is amazing, it's wonderful, obviously, I just felt like when I was seeing clients, sometimes we weren't going as deep as we could go.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like to learn alternative ways to help clients, because I think traditional talk therapy can only take you so far, depending on what the issue is. So I really dove into hypnotherapy, got certified. It took me about a year to do that while I was still in grad school, but it was really worth it because I felt like now I had this extra tool that really just accelerated talk therapy in a way that I wasn't learning in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got into hypnotherapy, opened up my practice. And so now I'm seeing clients for hypnotherapy. The specialty with trauma just is natural because I've been studying it for so long, but the specialty with pregnancy loss really came from more of a personal experience. So in 2020, I had a miscarriage and an open myomectomy. So pretty much within a couple months of each other. I really resonated with one of your podcast episodes. It may have been the first one, or one of the earlier ones, where you talked about how like you always had regular, normal cycles and no issues. So you just assumed that you would get pregnant and it would result in a healthy baby with no issues. That was me.
Yeah.
I literally remember saying, "Oh, my cycles are every 28 days. I'm so regular." I was almost like proud to think and believe, and naive enough to think that I was going to be immune to that. But I wasn't. So that was my first experience with it. And then I had another early miscarriage last year.
Mm.
And so once that happened, I'm someone that kind of likes to take things in life as signs, even really horrible things like pregnancy loss. So I felt like, okay, I know that, everyone says to niche down in your business. And I thought, okay, trauma is really vague these days and everyone's talking about trauma. So I wanted to get specific and deal with pregnancy loss, and infant loss trauma. And I felt like I understood it, because of personal experience, even though everyone's experience is, of course, different. So that's how I got into pregnancy loss specifically. And it just feels right for me.
Mm-hmm. I love that, and thank you for sharing. And so sorry for your losses, but I agree with you. I think if we can take a step back and really, as hard and difficult as it can be to do that sometimes, but why is this happening for me? What type of lesson or what can I learn or how can I grow from this experience? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of women um, can make it mean something about themselves, like they did something wrong. They don't deserve to be a mom. There's so many different things. And it is so common to have a miscarriage. And it's like, no one's talking about it. So then there's like this shame factor on top of it. And some of the things that I've heard from some women in my community and clients, it's like doctors won't even, look into it until you've had X amount of miscarriages. So we're not even, medically like supporting
You're right.
women who go through that, let alone, emotionally and mentally. And there's just so many factors that can go into it. So I love what you're doing because it really is needed. I had a woman on my podcast a while back, Sarah, and she has a beautiful website and everything for anyone who experiences miscarriages or infant loss. And she had a stillbirth and she ended up being pregnant. I think her daughter's like 6 months old now or something. And she was in her third trimester and she was like, I still don't have a car seat, like still just not even allowing herself to like, it's like you got to pinch yourself like, oh, this is real. So this
Yeah.
is deep work that you're doing. So I'm just so thankful for you because really you're helping women that I help as well. We're very much intertwined in that, and it's just beautiful. And I have a friend who's in hypnotherapy as well, and I think it's fascinating. um,
Yes.
this isn't related to the topic, but I think her brother was a smoker and he had one session with her and he quit smoking. Like, you can't tell me that hypnotherapy is like woo woo and doesn't work. Because, like, if a smoker can go from one session to not smoking, like, there's something to be said about hypnotherapy.
Absolutely. Yes, that's how most people know about hypnotherapy. And, I definitely learned the smoking protocol and everything, but it is really that powerful. So if it works like that for smoking, I mean, it works really well for so many other things. Like you said, I think my tagline on Instagram is like helping women reclaim their pregnancy bliss. So not only helping women to fall pregnant who are still trying, but helping them to enjoy this beautiful season
Mhm.
without allowing that record that's on replay in the back of their mind of the last time that
Yeah.
they were pregnant and expecting that to happen again. Super
Mhm.
important.
Yeah. I mean, it's like PTSD, really. It's just
Exactly.
so traumatic. And I know women like you've had two losses. Some women have had like five, or even I've heard of some with eight. It's just like, I can
Heartbreak.
only imagine the fear that
Mhm.
your body and your subconscious must be holding on to
Exactly.
when it happens just over and over again. So for anyone who's listening, who's maybe not familiar with hypnotherapy and maybe they just have an idea in their head where it's like you put someone under like a spell or something and you tell them to quack like a duck, or I feel like some people might have that idea in their mind, but if you could explain a little bit about what hypnotherapy is.
Yes, of course. So you're right. A lot of people have misconceptions just based on movies and stage hypnosis, which is
Yeah.
a completely different type of hypnosis than what I learned. So I learned clinical hypnotherapy. So it's used specifically for clinical issues like depression, anxiety, trauma, etc. And so first thing I would like people to know is that you are in control the entire time. I'm not putting you under. In fact, we don't even use that term, putting you under. We say we're guiding you into hypnosis. And hypnosis is a state of mind that we all enter into multiple times per day. I think the most common example, or the easiest example I can give, is when you're driving a long time and you arrive at your destination, but you don't really remember that much about the journey. You just kind of checked out, but you're physically still there. That's kind of what it feels like. Other people describe it as feeling like they're going into like a daydream. So they're still there. They can stop at any time. We're communicating back and forth. It's really just like your mind going into a meditative state. And when your mind is in that state, your subconscious is more open and readily able to receive positive suggestions and affirmations. So, for example, if I'm working with a client and they really have this core belief that they are not worthy of becoming a mother, when they're in a state of hypnosis, their subconscious mind is accepting of hearing me repeat positive suggestions and affirmations to them to sort of rewrite the script that they've been living by. Another example is we all know that when we see a red light, we stop. We don't really have to think and calculate and ask ourselves, oh, what does this light mean? It's just automatic. So we're all operating from this blueprint that we've had since we were children. From ages 0 to 7 is usually when all of that becomes more concrete. And so there's positive in there, but then there's also negative. So if you've been operating from this blueprint for so long, in hypnotherapy, we're just kind of going back and rewriting that script a little bit so that you can navigate your life in a much different way.
Yeah. And how long would like a typical session look like? How many women, and it might vary, who've experienced loss, how many sessions do they typically need to really be able to feel that pregnancy bliss again?
So hypnotherapy works in one session. I mean, people leave here and they feel significantly different in one session. Of course, it's not magic. So I really don't see clients for just one session. Pretty much everyone I see, they do 6 sessions. So I have a 4-session package and a 6-session package. And sometimes people finish one package and they want more for something else, because a really interesting thing about hypnotherapy that is similar with traditional therapy is once you open one box, you start to find all of these other things. So while women do come to me because they want to talk about pregnancy related issues, we also get into like childhood trauma. We get into things about their current relationships with their partners or what their relationships are like with their families. So I would say the standard is 4 to 6, but some women, they end up staying a bit longer just to work on, their overall mental health once they're here.
I love that. That's amazing. And it's funny. I was going to ask about childhood trauma and if you see that really kind of playing any part with women who might be carrying just a really, really dense or like heavy limiting beliefs after a miscarriage. Today's episode of Rising into Mindful Motherhood is proudly sponsored by the Confident Conception membership. Are you or someone you know on what feels like a never-ending journey to motherhood, facing an uphill battle of fertility challenges? I'm Dr. Katie, your podcast host, pharmacist, and integrative fertility coach with over a decade of experience. I've been where you are, and I understand the roller coaster of emotions and heartache. That's why I've created the Confident Conception membership, a program designed to help you address the real reasons behind fertility challenges. Like my client Elizabeth, who struggled with fertility for 9 years, having tried and failed other programs. She was in disbelief when just a couple of months into using my Confident Conception method, she finally got her first positive pregnancy test and welcomed her healthy baby boy this year. Using the Confident Conception method, we combine traditional medicine and energy healing to unlock your innate and abundant fertility potential. This isn't just about putting a Band-Aid on to cover up the physical symptom. It's about healing the energetic and physical root causes. As a member, you'll receive personalized guidance, bi-weekly live coaching calls, and become a part of a supportive community of like-minded women who truly understand what you're going through. We offer flexible payment options, plus our annual members receive exclusive savings and bonuses to accelerate their path to pregnancy. Don't let another month of frustration and overwhelm pass you by. As a special offer to our listeners, you can use the promo code PODCAST10 to receive 10% off the lifetime of your membership. Secure your spot now and expedite your journey to motherhood today by visiting www.yourempoweredfertility.com/membership to learn more and enroll. Together, we'll pave the way to your confident conception for a future filled with joy, unconditional love, and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. The link is in the show notes. Sign up today and your future self will thank you.
Absolutely. I was not expecting for it to go that route at all. But I would say the majority of the women I work with, even the ones that have really positive memories of childhood or happy families, something comes up. It doesn't always have to be a big T trauma like abuse. But a lot of times things come up just about their relationships with their own mothers, their mother wounds, relationships with their fathers, relationships with themselves based on experiences from the past. So I would say it comes up more often than I expected.
Yeah, I would think so too. Even just, like overachievers, type
Yeah.
A, like it can feel like a really big sense of failure,
Oh
in
my
a
gosh, yeah.
way for someone who's used to being able to get that A plus or, get that report or whatever, raise, promotion, things like that.
I'm so happy you said that because I've seen, especially recently, more women that are that high achieving personality type. A lot of career women, and a lot of the women I work with are seeing other professionals. Like, I always recommend acupuncture. That's what helped me a lot. Um, and a lot of them are that, career driven, type A, they like to plan their lives. I was like that, like, oh, I'm going to get pregnant by this age and, have my second child by this age. And I think that it really takes a hit on, a woman's self-esteem and their self-worth when something so pivotal is not going to plan. And you can definitely, a lot of them do feel like they failed in some way.
Absolutely. So one thought I had is, and I'm sure it's different and varies person to person, but if someone experiences a miscarriage or an infant loss, is there a better time to start seeking out help? Is it like right away so you kind of don't get yourself in a hole, or is it when you're ready? What do you have any recommendations around that?
Well, that's a hard question because I think it just varies
Yeah.
person to person. I've had one woman come to me. It was right after a loss, and I just think she wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
Then I've had women who have come right after and they were. So I think it's kind of just up to the individual. I would say more importantly than timing is just openness, the person's openness to go there.
Gotcha. Okay. So would that be a sign for someone to kind of tune in and look for, is like their openness to the whole thing?
Yes.
Like, is there anything else that people could kind of look for to know that, okay, I'm ready to unpack this, I'm ready to move forward?
I think, at least in my experience, it's such an isolating experience when something like that happens. And I think if someone is ready to talk about it in a non-judgmental, open environment, then that's really the only sign they need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always follow a client-led approach, so I never push, but
Yeah.
also I can't force you to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you are ready to share and you're ready to, be vulnerable, then that's really all that
Yeah.
you would need to be ready.
Okay. So yeah, being ready and being open, that definitely makes sense for sure. Okay. Do you have any like client success stories that really stick out to you where they had a loss, they were pregnant? Maybe it was similar to the woman I had interviewed where it was like, oh, I'm 39 weeks and I still don't have a car seat. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, not to say that they were that far along, but and then they worked with you and they were really able to just soak in, the beauty that is pregnancy.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's the best feeling ever. So I had I mean, there's multiple stories, but I think the one that stands out to me the most and the most recent is, so I'm currently pregnant actually.
Gosh,
And
congratulations. I didn't know that.
yeah, so I would say I'm one of those success stories,
Yes.
using it on myself and also seeking hypnotherapy from one of my mentors.
Mm,
But through that, there's a woman who she's a little bit ahead of me in her pregnancy. And so like our stories very much mirrored, where she had multiple losses. You were talking about someone who's had like five or more. She
yeah.
was one of them.
Wow.
And so when you mentioned the woman who hadn't even bought a car seat, I was like, are we talking about the same person? Because that was her. I mean, she didn't want to do a gender reveal. She didn't want to do a shower. She didn't want to, really, she hadn't shared it with people until she was 7 months.
Mm,
She had nothing for the baby, no name, no anything. She was terrified of getting attached.
mhm.
By our, I would say, fourth session, she was so in love with her baby,
Oh my God.
so bonded with her baby. One thing about hypnotherapy is there's different ways to navigate it. I have some clients that are very woo-woo, and we do past life regressions and chakra realigning and all of that. And then I have some clients that are not really into that, which is completely fine. She was one of the woo-woo ones. So I think when we did past life regression sessions, she really got to zoom out and see a larger perspective, that this was not a punishment. This was not something that was happening to her, that this was aligned for her, as devastating as the past experiences were. And
Mm,
once we got to that part and we just kind of climbed over that hill, her bond with that baby just became so strong. And she actually delivered not too long ago and is so in love with that baby. And she feels like she's stepping into this role that was meant for her. And I think every time, I'm still in contact with her, but every time I think about that, I'm like, this is why I'm doing this.
wow, that's beautiful. And I like to take a step back and just look at the really, really big picture and the way you're able to help women. Because if you think about it, if you don't even want to announce until 7 months or do any of these things, that's only like on the outside. I can only imagine the turmoil that is going on the inside of someone's mind. And that must just be triggering like a stress response within your body, which when you're pregnant, that's going to go across the placenta. It can affect your baby. So this is really, really pivotal, profound work. If any of the listeners, if you've experienced a loss and maybe you're frightened to get pregnant again, that's another thing that I see a lot is they're not pregnant yet, but they're like terrified. The
Mhm.
idea, like they're still trying because they want it, but they're absolutely terrified, which that in itself can really block a pregnancy from happening. So even if you're not pregnant, seeking help with someone like Vanessa, and then if you are pregnant, but you're just oh, I just can only imagine what that must feel like. Almost like battling yourself inside your mind. So to be able to release that even a little bit, so then you can get out of that fight or flight state and really be able to like calm your nervous system, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and just be in that blissful, happy state.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Going a little bit back to what you were saying about timing, now that you mention it, um, this was my experience and some of my previous clients is, the first time getting pregnant, being so excited and celebrating. The second time, still being excited, but a little weary. This third time, I don't even think I smiled. I think my first words were, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And
Mm,
just the fact that that has, I'm not someone that typically is anxious, but I really struggled initially. And I think a lot of the women that I've worked with have said the same thing, that, if you haven't had anxiety before, if you have, oh my goodness, the toil, the turmoil that it feels like to
mm,
have to go through that again, and the toll that it takes on your body,
yeah.
how that affects everything, nutrition and sleep and, everything, I think is so important. So I would say if anyone's listening and they just found out they're pregnant and they're worried, now would be a good time. So
Mhm.
that you don't have to continue to go through, the first trimester is so anxiety inducing, not being
Yeah.
able to feel kicks yet, not being able to get an appointment yet, just not knowing if anything, what's happening in there is just so stressful.
Mhm.
And hypnotherapy really helped me a lot in that first trimester. And I think it's helped a lot of my clients in that first trimester too. Not to say it's, smooth sailing in the later trimesters, but I think it gets a bit less stressful in terms of worrying.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had mentioned you have like a freebie for the listeners. I think it's well, I'll have you kind of talk about it.
Okay, so I don't know if it's the same as when we first discussed it because I'm always changing things.
Okay.
But I always have a free 20 to 30-minute consultation that hasn't changed. And for the month of October, because of what October signifies, I'm offering a free entire session. So the first session is usually 90 minutes to 2 hours. And I'm offering one free session just to give people a chance to kind of see what it's like and decide for themselves if it's something that they would like to continue.
Wow, that is so generous of you. That's amazing. And I'm definitely launching this tomorrow. So very cool. That's awesome. And I think one of the other ones you had put was like a 20% off of a 6 session, I think.
Package, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone does do the free session and they would like to book a package after that, then any of your listeners can also get 20% off.
Awesome. Awesome. There's something else I was gonna ask. No, I can't remember. Oh, do you do Zoom?
I do. I'm actually so I'm in my physical office now in Miami. But I am going to be switching probably after my baby's born to exclusively virtual. So yes, hypnotherapy works just as well, if not sometimes better virtually. So if anyone's worried about, the effectiveness, there's no difference in terms of effectiveness.
Awesome. Love it. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about?
I would say, anyone that's curious, there's no harm in trying. I know that hypnotherapy in the past has had a bad reputation just based on people kind of abusing it. But really the most important thing is making sure that you find someone, whether it's me or someone else, that is trained by a reputable school. So if, I don't know how much digging people are going to be able to do, but there's a lot on the internet, get certified in a weekend and things like that, that I would caution to stay away from. And just finding someone that you really aligned with. My business is called Journeys Aligned because I really think that alignment is one of the most important things when you're going to open yourself up to someone who's going to be like a guide with you along such an important journey.
Yeah, that I agree totally. So if you're listening, I would just take this as a sign, if this is really resonating with you, I can tell that you will be in wonderful hands with Vanessa. So take advantage of that, either free like discovery session if it's outside of October. If you're listening in October, definitely take advantage of that free session. That is such a gift that could literally change your life and for the better. So this was such a beautiful conversation. And like I said in the beginning, we had to reschedule because I had something going on and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the month that we were supposed to have this interview. So thank you so much, Vanessa, for being on and sharing your passion and your expertise. And it was just a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. If this episode resonated with you or gave you an aha moment, stop what you're doing right now and write a review. This simple act of kindness helps me get this podcast out to connect with as many women as I possibly can. I also have a special offer. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I will take $250 off one of my premium coaching containers. Let me know what resonated with you the most and why. So connect with me in my free Facebook community or tag me on Instagram. You'll find both listed below. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you next time.